unique take on this idea of everyday leadership. I just want to quickly introduce my team really fast. My name is Jessica. This is Luisa. She's sick today, but she's here with us. This is Shira and Giorgio and Musa. And we are all so glad that you can make it today. We had a great diversity of different backgrounds that are here tonight. We have not only your typical schools such as CAS, Stern, Steinhardt, Tisch, Gallatin, LSP, all that, but also we had people RSVP coming from like the SPS school or the Graduate School of Arts and Sciences or Tandon and even CUS, the Center of Progress. We had one person from Baruch.
Shanghai.
Oh, and NYU Shanghai as well, Silver, all of these Quran, all these different schools. And so we're really excited to get to share that background, that diversity of backgrounds and experiences. We really want to make sure that this night is a really informal night for us to really express vulnerability and authenticity. Just to give a brief background on where I fit into that picture. The idea of how are you and all of that came over the course of the last couple of years, where I've been thinking more and more how often when people ask me how am I, my answer is immediately busy, stressed, or tired. And I realized that that's a terrible way to present myself because I'm so many more things than busy, stressed, and tired. And so I wanted to challenge myself to answer how are you in a more vulnerable and authentic way. And for me, that was thinking about how do I make each interaction count? How do I make sure that I'm engaging each time that I have the opportunity to? And of course, our team can share their own take on everyday leadership as well.
Inspired me in my life, at my time at NYU, especially at my loneliest moments, that actually encouraged me to become a stronger person and eventually a leader. And so my freshman year, I was extremely lonely. I will say I did not find my community, so to speak, and I think a lot of students here in this room can probably relate to that. And I went on a trip to Clinton Global Initiative University, and I went for spring break, and I came back in the middle of the night. It was like 2 in the morning, and I have my phone, my ID's in my phone. This plays a role in the story, but my ID, my NYU ID, has like a pocket in my phone. And so I get off the cab and I go to my dorm and I realize I checked my pocket to grab out my ID and I realize my phone's not in there. So basically it's like 2 a.m., it's like no one's on the streets, I don't know where my phone is, I don't have my ID. And so the security guard's sitting there and I go up to her and I tell her, I lost my phone, I left it in the cab, my ID was in the thing, it was in my phone, like, can you please help me, like what should I do? And she looks at me for a second, and she was not about to help me. And she was like, oh, sorry, like, I don't know what to tell you. And in a sense, she almost didn't believe me. And I was like, no, like, can you please help me? And so she's like, okay, you know what, what's your phone number? And she gets her phone out, and she starts calling her my phone. She starts, like, FaceTiming it, because my phone was on vibrate, so it makes some noise. She texted my phone saying, like, hi, like, this is da-da-da's phone, I left it in the back of the cab, like, please text this number. So that was like 2 in the morning. She would not give up and help me until like 7 a.m. And I had a class at 8 a.m. And I'm like this kind of person who I've never missed a class before. So I was like, I have to make it to my 8 a.m. class. So right as I was like leaving, I was about to give up. I'm like, okay, I lost my phone. We get a call from her cell phone. And it was the taxi cab driver saying they found my phone and they were going to drop it off. And she was like, so why don't you go to class and you come back, I'll have your phone and like whatever. And I was like, oh my god, like thank you, that's so nice. So that was just a very nice gesture that she had did, but it doesn't end there. That night, because she had my number, she calls me and goes, I just want to make sure you got your phone, is everything okay, like how are you? I was like, everything's going really well, like thank you very much. So she calls me a week later. I don't recognize the number at first. And so she leaves a voicemail and she goes, hi, I'm the security guard from Brittany Hall. I helped you try to find your phone. I just really wanted to thank you. And like, I hope you're doing really well. And I'm like, what is this? And so I call her because I'm like really curious as to, what is this after like a week later. And she goes, that night that you came to me and you said that you lost your phone, I was going through a really rough time in my life. And I was actually going to quit my job the next day because I was unhappy being a security guard. And I realized I didn't know what my purpose was. Until you came in that night and you said to me, you know what, I really need help. And it was in that moment that I actually realized, that my job can actually be something inspiring and I can help people. And so I'm like happy to tell you that like I talked to my boss and I'm gonna have like the morning shift. I think it was like the night shift that was like really depressing me. But then she went on and said that this is something that I found was really remarkable. She said, I want to let you know that you're never alone. Like if you ever need anyone, a friend in the city or someone to talk to, and I don't know how she sensed this of me, that I was feeling at such a low point at my time, my freshman year, that she said, I want you to know that I'm here for you. Anything that you want, my number, this, you can reach out. And I remember it was ironic when she told me that, and because it was so relevant to everything I was feeling. I hung up the phone and I just started crying. That was like the most beautiful exchange I've ever had with such a stranger. And I didn't know her name. My phone number of her was saved as Brittany's security guard. And I didn't know until I was, in the summer, I was staying at Palladium, and I run into her. And she's working the security desk at Palladium, and we run into each other. And she starts telling me, oh, I'm so happy now, my job is so great, I love it. And then, I moved on in the summer, and the next summer, I saw her being a security guard at Founders. And so we keep on running into each other, and every time we run into each other, we both appreciate those moments. I feel like in some way, I've helped her discover something, but more than that, I realize there are people out there in this world that really do care for you, and in moments can actually save you. And so I really look at her as this everyday leader, as someone who actually, went out of her way to help me, inspired me, and I really hope to, spread that act of kindness that she did.
Hi, my name is Katie. I go to Steinhardt, and I'm studying applied psychology, and I'm minoring in creative writing, nutrition, and dance. So I'm kind of like an all over the place kind of person. I do a lot of different things. So I kind of want to give 3 sort of random examples of leadership that I think are very a-traditional, but they really speak to me and inspire me in a lot of ways. So the first thing is something that I realized kind of within the last couple of days, this morning. And I realized that there's a lot of power in complimenting strangers. And this is kind of a broad thing to say, but I decided just this morning that I really wanted to make it a new resolution of mine to give a compliment to someone that I don't know. And that's not in a creepy way on the subway when someone gives you a compliment and you're like, ooh. I mean compliment someone who speaks at this event today that you don't know and you've never spoken to before. Be like, hey, what you said really inspired me. Or if you're in the dining hall and you like someone's shoes behind you, be like, hey, I like your shoes. Because I've realized that when someone gives me a compliment and I don't know that person, I've never talked to that person before or gotten to know them on an intimate level, that the compliment speaks volumes and it means a lot more than if someone who I know really well is just kind of handing out compliments. Because you'd expect someone that you know really well and that you love to give you a compliment. But you wouldn't expect necessarily a stranger to give you a compliment. And I think it's really powerful to kind of make that a new resolution, to tell someone that they have a nice smile or that they're really good at their job or something like that. The second thing I want to talk about is an organization that I'm involved with on campus. It's called Best Buddies. And basically, every person in the club is paired with an adult who has a developmental disability. And you go to that person's house once a month, you get pizza with them, you go to the movies with them, and you're kind of just their friend. And people don't really realize just how much power there is in being someone's friend. A lot of these adults who are in homes and communities that are very sheltered and isolated and ostracized, I would say, they just don't have friends. And you don't realize how much of a leader you are just by being someone's friend, just by calling someone up on the phone and saying, hey, how was your day? Or tagging them in a funny picture on Instagram, or just the little things that contribute to being someone's friend, I think, are really important in leadership. And that's just something that I'd like to share with all of you. Just assume that you're a leader if you're someone's friend. That's honestly the most basic message that I've learned from Best Buddies, how powerful and meaningful friendship can be. And the third thing I want to share with you is an experience I had last week. I'm a fitness instructor and I teach dance and fitness and Pilates classes at a bunch of different gyms in the city, and that in of itself seems like an act of leadership, getting up in front of a room of people and helping them all exercise together and feel good about their bodies and their lives and endorphins, yay. But this one woman who has been coming to my classes since I started teaching when I was 17, she said to me last week, I asked her at the beginning of class, I was like, hey, how are your kids? And she was like, you know something? The only reason I talked to my daughter this morning was because I knew you were going to ask me how my kids were. Wow. And it just really hit me in that moment that I always ask this woman how her kids are at the beginning of every class, because she when she first started coming to classes, she'd always show me pictures. And then I noticed after a while that she kind of stopped talking about her kids.
And I guess like 2 of them got older, they went to college, and like she's kind of become a little bit more disconnected with them. And it hit me kind of in that moment that like I am a fitness instructor, and that might seem like something that's kind of like leadership in of itself, being an instructor and helping people reach their fitness goals. But what's really important is taking the time to be more personal with people and asking them questions about their kids. And like, I'm not a leader because of what is considered a traditional act of leadership. I can be a leader just by asking someone how their kids are, and that can really affect their day and potentially change the course of her life. And that's something that I was really proud of. And that's all I got for you tonight.
My name is Nazrin. I'm a junior in Steinhardt. I'm studying the policy and economics of education, and I'm minoring in politics. I'm the vice president of TEDx this year. I'm also in the leadership fellows. But I don't think I want to really talk about anything like in my professional or academic life for tonight's story. And for me, I guess I want to share more of like a personal story and leadership as it relates to me when no one's watching. So, and it is a little bit personal, so let's try not to judge or whatever. So my freshman year, I had come to New York City, and I had gotten out of a relationship that was really that was like still causing me a lot of like sadness and pain and whatever. And I remember I was walking to West 4th Street, and I walked by this one kind of like startup-y thing that was going on the sidewalk, and I was like kind of rolled my eyes, and I was like, oh god, like another one of these New York like startup things. And I've seen them before, and I didn't want to stop. And then I realized like, okay, I want to try to make more connections. I want to try to open myself up to new relationships and new people in New York, because as a freshman it was really difficult to kind of make that transition from having a really strong community at home to not like literally knowing no one when we first came. And so I had met this person, and we ended up getting in a relationship that was about 2 years and ended like officially like last October. And like a whole lot happened in the course of that relationship, but it was definitely something, a place where I felt like I had stayed too long, a place that was a little bit destructive for me, and it was hard for me to see myself go through this relationship very recklessly and put myself in positions that I knew were not good for me, because in my academic and professional life, in like around my friends, when people are watching, it's very easy for me to keep myself to certain standards, and very easy for me to, or easier relatively, to act like a leader, like act as an example. And partially like that may be due to my ego, because I want I want people on the outside to see me in a certain way. And in my relationship, where it's really only me and this other person who can see like my biggest flaws, I was okay kind of acting in ways that really did not align to my values. Like I would start ignoring a lot of my friends because I was really ashamed, I was embarrassed of the fact that I had been back in this relationship and out of this relationship like literally 20 times. And like I was really upset with myself. I would hide it from my friends, I would distance myself from my friends, I would reach out to this person and act like it never happened. Just acting in ways that really didn't align to the things I had believed in, the things I knew that were good for me. Until I think I had learned a lot in that relationship in terms of where to draw the line between trying to stay in a place long enough to really come to a solid understanding of someone, having compassion for someone and having understanding for who they are despite the fact that they may hurt you or not, but also learning when it's okay to walk away for myself and not feel like I'm engaging in something superficial, that it's okay to kind of take myself out of harm's way, and that's not selfish, but it's like kind of it's needed at some points. So yeah, I think that for me now, being able to be out of that place, I've been able to live my life with more integrity, which is really important to me, that I'm living in a way that aligns to my values, that when I feel that it'd be easy to reach out to him or comfortable to reach out to him, that I don't, because it's not something that that's not something that holds true with me. And being able to be that leader in my life when no one's looking has been so much more important to me than being the leader that I can be when all eyes are on me. So I feel like that was definitely an exercise in my own self-understanding and really staring at like my ego in the face and kind of breaking down those walls and being in a place where I can go before I go to bed, I feel comfortable in my room and I feel good about the decisions I've made. And I can act with more understanding and compassion for people for girlfriends who go through similar situations or people who treat me in a way that I treated them during the time in my life.
I just walked out of class, but yeah, I'm BD, I'm a sophomore, majoring in computer engineering. I'm one of the leadership fellows, which has been a really cool thing. And then, so I just wanted to share one story, which I just thought of, it's a cool thing to share. This weekend I was at an event called a hackathon. How many of you have heard of this? Oh wow, okay. So yeah, I was at, how many of you know about Hack NYU? Cool. So yeah, I was at Hack NYU and then we were working on an app which basically tracked everything you eat. And then, so there were 4 different tracks and we chose to do something related to dental, like your teeth, because there were a bunch of dentists. And also there was this competition, we thought we would win if we did that. So we decided to make something where which keep track of everything that you ate, and then told you how healthy your teeth is, or like how quickly you get cavities. And then we spent I think more than 24 hours, stayed up all night building this thing. And then morning I'm really tired. 2 hours right before we had to present our thing. I was supposed to, I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to send you guys my code so you can make changes to it. That's what I did to my teammates. And then when I was about to send my code, I did some, I don't know, how many of you know about cloning and pushing it to a version, how many of you know about version control? Yeah, okay. So I was supposed to send my code to my friend, and so I did something stupid and I forgot to I wasn't really aware of it. Because I was too tired, so I just clicked on 3 buttons quickly without even looking at the message. I don't know if all of you do that, hit okay, and then everything got wiped out. All my code, everything that we did. And then Jay knows the story, so yeah.
I do?
Yeah, you do. Oh, you don't? Okay, now you know. Alright, so after, so I was like, okay, wow, we were gonna win this, and then now everything's gone. So and then I was like, what should we do? What should we even do? And then my other friend was like, it's not gonna happen. Let's just go home. Let's just give up. And then I was like, no, let's just do the whole thing again. And then he was like, there's no way that's happening. So he was like, go take a walk. Just take a walk. I'll see what can be done. And then you can actually recover lost files using some random app or something. And he tried doing that, but it didn't happen. And then I came back after 5 minutes. We started working on the app again. We actually finished in 2 hours. Wow. Half of the stuff didn't work, but it was good enough for the presentation, and we won. Yeah. So I think what I learned from that is, I think if you're really motivated to get something done and you put in the effort, people actually follow you. They don't really even though my friend thought it was impossible to get it done, he was just like, let's do it. Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that oftentimes we may not recognize ourselves as leaders, but we also may not recognize our peers as leaders. Just because someone doesn't have the title president or treasurer doesn't mean that they're not capable of leadership. And in many occasions, we don't grant those people that recognition. So I think certain examples of that would include, our parents, especially if your parents are people who emigrated to the United States or to another country from another place. They decided to leave everything behind, everything that they've ever known, and forge a new life in a different country, that takes a really strong, powerful, in some cases life-changing form of leadership. When we talk about the student level, just saying hello to someone in the hallway, holding the door open for someone, and I think especially in places like New York that are incredibly fast-paced, we don't take the time to acknowledge small acts of gratitude, like holding the door open for each other, saying thank you, or even just a friendly smile on the street. And while we may not define those as traditional leadership, those definitely count as, in my mind, those definitely count as parts of leadership. And I think it's really interesting too the way we look at leadership as students. And I would like to sort of backtrack to when we were in elementary school and how none of us really thought we were leaders because we were just a bunch of 8, 9, 10-year-olds kind of walking around not really knowing what was going on. But sometimes it's in those environments as well. When you decided to give someone the orange crayon that you really wanted at the kindergarten level, and then you move up, right? By the time you get to 7th or 8th grade, maybe you're in choir. Like I was, or maybe you're an amazing artist and you decide to help a friend out with a project. That's another form of leadership. And then obviously, what I think is most interesting is when you get to the high school level, most people are thinking about activities to do to get into college, right? And so a lot of times getting into college implies what? Being a student leader. So a lot of people tend to take up these activities that they may not necessarily be passionate about, but they want that recognition of being a student leader. So having that title of president or corresponding secretary or vice president becomes increasingly important. So what ends up happening is, especially during those years, I feel like we tend to affix a lot more importance on those titles and not what we can do with those titles or what our responsibilities are with those titles. So a lot of times we come into college with that mindset that only if I have a particular title, only then can I make an impact or make a difference. And so I think it's incredibly important to recognize that anyone is capable of making a difference. And when we talk about leadership being larger than life, when people say words like leadership, we think of Nelson Mandela or Martin Luther King Jr. or Aung San Suu Kyi, like people who have mobilized hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people to fight for their rights. That's definitely a form of leadership, but at a very, very basic level, those people were also human. They were prone to make errors, they made mistakes, they hurt their family members, they hurt their friends. And I think, that's why I think this event is incredibly important, because part of being a leader is recognizing that you are not all powerful. While this person said that we have to recognize that each and every one of us is equally powerful, we also have to recognize that, there need to be moments where we humble ourselves and we recognize that we are prone to make mistakes. And being a good leader doesn't just involve making these high-level decisions and delegating. It also involves learning from those mistakes. And I think the biggest part of leadership is when you acknowledge those mistakes in a very public way. If you're somebody who is leading an organization, or if you're somebody who's mentoring a group of younger students, leaving yourself open to learning from them. They may be younger than you, they may have less experience than you, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn from them. That doesn't mean that you can't internalize everything that they're telling you or everything that they're talking about. So keeping an open mind and keeping in mind, one of the things that I'm involved with as well is called Everyday Ambassador, and it's an organization that's dedicated to connecting social good nonprofits around the world. And we are based in four main values, which are empathy, patience, humility, and focus. And those are all incredibly important when we look at leadership. Of course, leadership, entails a great deal of being able to organize, being able to mobilize, and all of these very logistical, technical skills. But when we're looking at quote-unquote soft skills, being able to empathize with people on a very basic level, being able to be humble and recognizing when you don't know things, and being willing to learn from people, especially when you least expect it, being patient with yourself, especially, and with others, and being able to focus, being able to keep yourself on track with a particular goal in mind. I think those 4 tenets also really help round out leadership. So, that's all that I really wanted to share. I think leadership is a combination of these logistical skills, being able to organize and mobilize, but also being able to internalize these values in a way that's productive, in a way that's useful. So when you guys are thinking about what it takes to be a leader, recognize that you already have the potential. It's just a matter of matching those skill sets together and making that difference. Thank you.
But I'm happy to talk. Hi guys, my name's Ayush. I am a junior in Stern. I think what I want to talk about is something that's helped me reflect on who I am. Maybe embrace the sweater a bit. I think after coming to NYU, so I'm originally from Hungary. I'm not American, which is often misconstrued. But I've really embraced this idea of being weird or just different from a lot of people here. And I think what that means for me in terms of my leadership that I bring to any group, any friend circle, or any conversation, is that I embrace that sort of weirdness. And the way I translate that is this level of discomfort or just being uncomfortable. I think there's two sides to that. There is somewhat of like a very focused, introspective development side of like, okay, if you're uncomfortable, if you're in rooms where you know that you're the least smart person there, you're going to come out learning the most. So that's a good place to be. But there's also a level of discomfort that I like to associate myself, which I get a lot of feedback for, which has to do with like breaking down a lot of like the orthodoxies and mannerisms that are out there. So I have this friend, a very inspirational guy in my life, is one of my best friends, and he's big on mannerisms. He's like the definition of etiquette. This walking, great-looking German fellow who really, really embodies what being a gentleman means. And while that I think it's something really inspiring, is like getting a personal sort of morale or value system that is consistent and universal in a way that everyone gets the same thing. I've embraced that might not be something that works for me. In a sense that while he might walk into a conversation, meet someone with a smile and very, very, I wouldn't say generic, but like you're going to expect it. I've learned that my way is different. So this might be a bit vulgar, but I think the types of conversation that I have with friends, it happens to be very different. And so this is getting to the other side of the uncomfortable, is like, I like talking about stuff that people wouldn't really expect you to talk about. If you're talking about coffee drinking, for example, right? A lot of people love drinking coffee. I just like being very honest about, why coffee is an interesting subject. So I might talk about, what coffee does to me in terms of as a reaction. So you learn from that as well, I feel like. So I often bring up in conversation, like, oh, wait, do you like drinking coffee a lot? Because I like to get that sort of feedback. It's like, but I love drinking coffee, but, it makes me go to the bathroom a lot. Does that do the same? So it's always very fascinating to see people's reaction to that, because immediately it's just like, are you ridiculous? Like, are you actually talking to me about like what this does, and like why are we talking about like shitting and stuff? But it actually goes into a conversation that is so unexpected, but it helps you connect in a way that's so different as well. And I think I've found that to be my style, that makes people really uncomfortable at first, but with that they develop a really strong sense of connection that they could not have usually done in an interaction of 1 or 2 minutes, where generally they would have just introduced themselves and talked about where they're from. And so I think that generates a type of connection that can last beyond that 2 minutes, where the next time you meet, you honestly feel so much more connected because you've connected on such personal levels. I think that's been the interesting, I think, aspect of leadership to me. I am also a leadership fellow, so I don't know if that reflects anything I'm saying. But I think the other side of that, which I didn't touch much on, was the actual like discomfort of not knowing, of in terms of even just knowledge or sharing about topics. And that goes back to one of my experiences where I actually got to visit like a TED conference in Oxford, and it was a lot of MBAs, a lot of older people. I found a ticket and got to go, and that's where I learned, heard this quote from one of the people who was attending, and when I asked her like why she was here and what she liked about the event, was we were clearly like underqualified to be in the room and have the level of conversations and rhetoric that people were talking about. But it's that idea of being selfish in a way of being like the stupidest person in the room, and I think that's a philosophy that's helped me connect with people, because what it means is that I'm really hungry to learn. I don't read a lot, But the reason I am able to connect with people is because they are often the source of information and knowledge for me. So the way I usually connect with people is I'm able to go into rooms and just be really interested about what they're doing, because it's not just for the sake of connecting, but it's the way I take in information. So while I've understood that I might not be the most voracious reader out there, and that's not my way of, you know, becoming smart, becoming more intelligent, becoming an expert, I realized for me, like, talking to people and listening and asking questions is both a source of me becoming a smarter and more learned person, but also giving me an opportunity to connect with more and more people, giving me access to like tons of lives and all these different decisions that everyone's going through, and really learn vicariously. So that's my pitch on leadership through discomfort.
Hey guys, I'm post-grad. I was in Gallatin, graduated 2014. So I want to start by saying thank you to Jessica, because I was her leader at some point eons ago, and she has touched me so many ways. I said I wasn't going to get emotional to myself, but Jessica has been my friend for a couple years, and I've watched her grow, and she inspires me. So my story for today is, one, you say thank you to the people who you were supposed to lead, you know, because they end up leading you. And how am I? I'm terrible, but I feel great. Like, I feel great, but I guess what I learned from everything is, as a site leader, I was guarded, and I was not the best leader because I was surrounded by people who didn't understand me, who didn't try to understand me, and I was forced to understand them. How many times as a leader are we supposed to present qualities that are not reciprocated to us from the start, from the end, middle? And we're supposed to shut up and just do it. And I was not that way, because no one's really teaching you how to be a leader, and even if they are, you don't really pay attention until you are in a situation and you fumble. So 2 years from graduation, I've had a lot of time to think about the things that I've done, and I would say Jessica and one other person from our group kind of really showed me that while I wasn't a leader for everyone, I was a leader for them, and vice versa. And then I was stupid. I was as stupid as the kids in my group, and I say that with love because we were all young, and I thought I knew better because I was a leader, and no one knew anything, and I wish, you know, I could have done a group about this or whatever, but I don't think anyone ever was able to be vulnerable to say that, like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. And that's awesome, you know? And I just am so grateful for the time that I've had with people who've inspired me, the time that I've had with people who annoyed me, and the people who I inspired that people don't know about. And it's humbled me, it's taught me that, you know, I'm a bartender and I'm happy about it, you know? It's not about being in grad school or what job you're at or who acknowledges you as a leader. It's really about being able to say, hey, that was dumb and I'm gonna do better. Or, you know, I would love to do that again, maybe in a different circumstance, or, you know, whatever, or I'm a different person who I was. You know, just being able to look back and be patient with yourself, be compassionate with yourself, and, you know, understand that shit's gonna be weird. But then you meet awesome people like Jessica who make everything better even when it sucks, and I love you. And, you know, thank you for everybody sharing their story.
Popped in my mind, like, hey, you know what, I'm just going to speak about it, I'm going to go for it, like leadership. Okay, I was looking at the question, and I was like, what does this have to do with anything? So, the whole idea of how are you, and the words on top, I was just thinking about the power of the question. And I think what nobody spoke about that I've been thinking about is leadership is answering that question honestly. and like being comfortable to be in a room, and when someone asks you how are you, like, it's okay to say, you know, not so great, and you know, honestly, this is going on. Or if you are feeling really great, it's okay to kind of boast a little bit and say, yeah, you know what, I just got out of a really great class and I did really well on my test. Like, I think this is very anti-2016 and like Beyonce's notion of flawless and Lady Gaga and Born This Way. We're supposed to be so tough and we're supposed to have these tough exteriors and nothing's supposed to faze us. And if you're feeling sad or you're feeling like insecure with body image or, I mean that's on my mind. Anything that you're insecure about, when someone asks you how are you, nobody ever says, yeah, you know what, feeling really weak, or yeah, I mean, I'm really sad, because we're supposed to say like, I was born this way, or I'm flawless, like, take me as I am, like, you know, it's okay to sometimes be a leader and say, no, it's not all okay. So I was just thinking about that, and thinking about, like, kind of we live in this superficial, and I wrote an essay about this last semester, plastic society, and I think leadership is kind of breaking that and being real and being you, and I think sometimes we're scared to be that person and we're scared to be different, or like, I talk a lot, and I'm going to stop soon, I talk a lot, and sometimes I'm scared to talk a lot and like be the outspoken one, but it's okay, and it's okay to just, you can admit also to somebody, you know what, I know I talk too much, like, sorry, bear with me. I guess I think that there's just leadership in the question, and leadership in the way you just carry yourself, and yeah, that's it.